Learning about mythology, certain religions, and folklore is something I really, really do enjoy. And hell, I even write most of my stories based on those mythologies. I just love it so much. I like learning, stories. I like learning who the characters are and how they've dealt with their, their roles in the mythology. And I wonder, a bunch of mythologies are using different kinds of media. Which is it? I mean, it can't help it. It's mythology. And BlazBlue is no exception to that. BlazBlue uses a lot of Japanese mythology, Greek mythology, and to a lesser extent Norse, but it's mostly based around Japanese mythology. And I thought, maybe I should make a video about talking about what uses of Japanese mythology there is. Now, I'm going to split this this video into two parts because there's a lot to go through here. And mainly, the second part of this video will be more about one thing that has a bunch of mythologies in it instead of just one singular thing. So what I'm going to do is split this video into two parts. This is part one, starting with the basics of like certain mythologies, like how, the creation, the Japanese creation myth and all that. While I'll split the other videos and talk about the other things, like certain characters and whatnot. So without further ado, let's begin. As we're all aware, the Master Unit Amaterasu is basically the god of BlazBlue, like the highest god there is technically in the BlazBlue series, not counting the Susanoo unit and the Tsukuyomi unit, or the Takamagahara system. But in the actual myth, basically Amaterasu is the sun goddess. She's the sun goddess of Japanese mythology, and she's the sister to Susanoo and Tsukuyomi. The funny thing about it is, people usually think in like certain myths that the sun is pretty much God in their myths. And it makes sense to why Master Unit Amaterasu is the highest god in this whole thing, I mean, the sun is basically the highest, the highest point, as of now at least. And it's funny because a bunch of different religions and other mythologies worship the sun. And it makes sense to why Amaterasu is the highest. She represents the sun, so therefore she is the highest of the gods, not barring Susanoo and Tsukuyomi. So I like that. I do like that parallel right there. The Susanoo unit is not also hard to explain at all. We already know about Susanoo and BlazBlue, big, green, angry dinosaur man. However, in the myth, he is the god of storms and the brother to Amaterasu and Tsukuyomi. The thing about it is, this Susanoo's personality kind of is in line with the myths. Susanoo was basically known to be a complete and utter ass. He was a jerk through and through. He destroyed Amaterasu's rice fields completely out of spite. He threw a flayed pony at her, which is also ridiculous. He threw a cut-up pony. Well, he threw a pony that was been basically flayed at her. And he caused her to become so upset that she basically hid in a cave deprived of light. But, however, unlike BlazBlue Susanoo, Myth Susanoo would actually come to make peace with Amaterasu. They are actually, make peace as brother and sister, unlike BlazBlue Susanoo, who really just wanted to destroy her because he was pretty much being petty. Which, I mean, he really was. And that's how Brisbane turned out. Like, how pretty much this Susanoo, Myth Susanoo got character development, while our Susanoo was just still so pissed off to the point where he just couldn't. He was so blinded by his own hate and his own lack of freedom that he couldn't make peace with his sister. Which, I mean, this is Terumi/Susanoo, so there was no way he was going to make peace with her. And finally, we reached Tsukuyomi, which is basically when I think of the Tsukuyomi unit, is basically the least characterized of the San Kishin, because you already know that the Amaterasu can actually speak and emote. Susanoo does the same thing, but Tsukuyomi is just a shield. For lack of a better word, it's just a shield. Like, it's literally his own character is just to be a shield, which it's kind of sad. It's the strongest defense, but at the same time, it makes you think, man, if only the Tsukuyomi unit had like a personality or something. But whatever. The point is, in the myth, it's basically the representative of the moon. It kind of mirrors Amaterasu. Amaterasu mirrors the sun. Tsukuyomi mirrors the moon. And in some works, Tsukuyomi is seen as a male, though there are works that do see Tsukuyomi more as a feminine character. Which, I mean, I always thought that Tsukuyomi was a female, because the way the name, it's always the name that gets me. It just sounds feminine, and usually when I use Tsukuyomi in the stories I write, I do make it as a female character. So, like, basically, Amaterasu is female, Tsukuyomi's male, and Susan, the point is, yeah, basically, it's a dude, and it's hard to believe. It's like, man, I always thought it was a girl. Like, how the hell am I supposed to explain it's a dude? But yeah, Tsukuyomi makes me think it's a female. But the point is, yeah, basically, it's the representative of the moon. Now, there's not any of that in BlazBlue, really. I mean, you can get away with pretty much saying, oh yeah, Amaterasu represents the sun. which, I mean, it doesn't really do that sun-like stuff in, you know, the BlazBlue series, but it at least comes close to it. Susanoo doesn't really do anything storm-related in BlazBlue, so... But I guess these things don't have to actually follow their actual myths. I know damn well I don't make them follow their actual myths when I write them. I just use them mainly as just terms because I like the namings. Oh boy, here we are to Izanami. So basically in BlazBlue, we already know that Izanami is one of the main villains of the series. She's striking around in her Shinto garb going on about death and death and death and death and all that crap. In the myth, basically, along with Izanagi, Izanami is one of the most important Japanese gods due to her being one of the ones who created Japan in the first place. She's pretty much like top tier important gods because, hell, I mean, without them, Japan wouldn't be created in the first place. But Izanami, along with Izanagi, are known as the last generation of the Kamiyo Nanayo. They're basically 7 generations of gods that appeared after heaven and earth were formed. So basically, after all this happened, it's like, okay, they're the last generation of gods, literally, well, last generation of important gods, the Kamiyo Nanayo. And the story goes deeper with Izanami, which I will explain in a minute after I talk about Izanagi. So Izanagi in BlazBlue is not really important per se. It's pretty much a last minute addition. People have a ton of theories before Central Fiction came out about how Izanagi could have been symbolized as Ragna or anyone else in the series, but no, the Izanagi just turned out to be like a system in BlazBlue. Basically, it is the master unit's power of creation, and it's supposed to balance and offset Izanami's, which is its drive and the embodiment of death. It's supposed to balance out one another. Creation, death. And it kind of rolls back to the creation myth, the Tenshikai Byaku, to be precise. That basically, especially the Japanese creation myth, it has nothing to do with death per se, but it kind of alludes to that. But anyway, in the myth, Izanagi is obviously the sister of Izanami, as well as her husband that created Japan. So there was incest way back then. ain't the weirdest story. It gets a lot worse with Izanami, but I'm not going to go there because it's actually the story about how Izanami had produced some of her gods is actually very disgusting, and I'm not even going to go there. It's really disgusting. I'm just going to pass all of that. But anyway, to make a long story short, because there's a lot of crap to go through, there's creation of other gods, islands, and godlike baby making. Please, I don't want to go through all of this. It's so much. Izanami was burned to death by Hino Kagutsuchi during childbirth. I will talk about him later. And she ended up in the Yomi no Kuni, the underworld. Izanagi tried to go down there and see her, but instead finding that she become a grotesque monster upon her eating the food of the underworld. So after she ate the food of the underworld, she was basically normal. But once she ate the food of the underworld, she became some rotting, grotesque creature. And basically, once Izanagi saw that, he just bailed. He bailed immediately. And Izanami was so angry and pissed that she produced more gods out of her anger, called the Yotomotsu Shikome. They're basically 8 hags that were created from her grief. And they chased her out. They pretty much chased Izanagi out of the underworld. But before all that, I will get back to the how all this ties to Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, and Susanoo. Before all that happened, before Izanagi was chased out of the underworld, he had to clean himself of the filth of the underworld. It made him feel dirty. So basically, when he washed himself off, he created Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, and Susanoo in the process. So yeah, that's how they got born. They basically just came off of Izanagi's dirty body. Talk about Izanami some more. The weapons behind her, that little three weaponish, that ring behind her. It's hard to explain it, but that ring behind her is basically Izanami's main weapon. It's called the Yasakani no Magatama. In the myth, the Yasakani no Magatama is actually one of the 3 imperial regalia of Japan. Basically, they're like super important weapons that were part of Japan. And I will get to some of the, I think the rest next couple episodes, because the next part, because I don't want to do it all now. Trust me, I will get to some of them later and some of them in the next episodes. But the point is, yeah, the Yasakani no Magatama is basically super important in the Japanese myth. Which, I mean, yeah, they're called the 3 imperial regalia of Japan for a reason. But more on the other 3 later. Trust me, I will get to them. So now we reach to Kagutsuchi, and as I said before, Kagutsuchi is the god that burned Izanami during childbirth, which sent her to the Yomi no Kuni in the first place. Now, Kagutsuchi, as we know, is one of the hierarchical cities of BlazBlue, the 13th one to be exact. There are actually 2 different Kagutsuchis in BlazBlue. There's a city we're already familiar with, and Hino Kagutsuchi, the magical fire creature used by Nine the Phantom. Now, it's kind of hard to explain because, like, when I try to explain Hino Kagutsuchi, people are thinking just the city. But I was like, no, there's also the 9 also uses Hino Kagutsuchi, which it gets kind of confusing. I mean, you could have just named the creature something else, but it doesn't matter. But anyway, Kagutsuchi is actually, you know, honestly, before the god of fire that burned Izanami alive during childbirth, and that's pretty much where like Kagutsuchi's differences go. Other than, you know, Izanagi killing him because, you know, he killed his wife. So, yeah, there's not really much to say about Kagutsuchi. It's basically the fire god that burned Izanami alive. That's pretty much all it is. Funny enough, despite Kagutsuchi's very small role, it's actually very popular among series that use this name. I think it's just the name that gets it, or the ability because it's fire. I feel like it's just the name, because Kagutsuchi, just saying the name just sounds cool as hell. Like, I feel like it's just the name or the ability that it casts as fire that makes it very popular amongst these things. I certainly like it. And like with Kagutsuchi, there are actually 2 different kinds of Takamagahara in BlazBlue. But the thing about it is, it appears in X-Blaze and it appears in the main series, and it's pretty much the same thing in both series. It's a giant phenomenon intervention causing computer. It's pretty much just a giant computer in both continuities. There's an organization in X-Blaze called the Takamagahara, which basically it basically produces like robots. It's confusing because their goal is to create something called a T system, which is just a Takamagahara system in general. So it's whatever. The point is, it's the same thing. But in the actual myth, Takamagahara is basically the dwelling place of the heavenly gods, or they're called the Amatsukami. But basically, it's the home of gods. It's basically it's called the high plane of heaven, and it, you know, it kind of fits its name. It's basically where all the gods dwell at, and that's pretty much all it is. I'm trying to find a way how it alludes back to the main series of BlazBlue, and I guess that you could call it that the three Takamagahara and the people inside the Takamagahara, TA, TB, and TC. I guess you could count them as they're trying to become gods by using the Azure technically. They're trying to become godlike at least, and I guess once they get the Azure, well, I guess it makes sense with the high plane of heaven, because they're dwelling in a place way above us. They think they're almighty and all powerful and junk like that, and they're dwelling in a high place of heaven. But yeah, that's pretty much how Takamagahara's place goes. I might have got some of that wrong with the whole them trying to become gods thing. It's been a while that I even dealt with Takamagahara, because it's kind of tough to deal with, really. It's kind of hard to explain that, really, because they're pretty much one note. They really don't have that much important play when you really think about it. And tacking on this to Takamagahara, there's something called the Yorishiro. Now in Hakumen's Act 2, or Act 3, I can't remember exactly, he called Izanami a Yorishiro. And in Japanese mythology, well, it's not really mythology, it's more just around in general, the Yorishiro is an object that attracts gods to it. So, as trying to allude that to BlazBlue, I honestly don't know how it could work, but I mean, Izanami is technically, she thinks herself as a god, and her name is a god-like, and her name is pretty much coming from a goddess. So, but yeah, Hakumen, like, it's more, I guess it's more important in, the Japanese version, because he does call it the Yorishiro in the Japanese version, but in English it doesn't really translate well, so it kind of just, you know, passes on. So, yeah, that's pretty much Takamagahara and Yorishiro. The Nemesis Horizon is a very interesting case. Now, the Nemesis Horizon in Japanese is just the Nemesis, well, it's just the Nemesis Horizon. I'm not even going to try to pronounce it in Japanese. But basically, how BlazBlue kind of works is that it has some words in katakana, it has some words in, like, let's say it has a word in kanji. It will have either the hiragana or the katakana above it for easier reading. In this case, the Nemesis Horizon's basically main name is it has it in kanji, and in kanji it's called the Amano Iwato, or the Rock Cave of Heaven. The Amano Iwato, I'm sorry about Japanese, it's kind of terrible, is basically where Susanoo drove his sister Amaterasu. Basically, remember I told you that he drove his sisters into a cave? This is that cave, the Amano Iwato. And it was so deprived of light that it was pretty much deprived Amaterasu of light in general. And not even the gods could even get her out. She was that upset, technically, that no one could even get her out of there. And I guess tying it back to BlazBlue, it does make sense. Like, the Nemesis Horizon had to be open to unleash Amaterasu. And while, funny enough, Amaterasu did eventually come out the cave, and I will get to that in a second. She eventually did come out the cave, and I guess it makes sense because the Nemesis Horizon was supposed to bring down the master unit from the boundary down to, like, so they can destroy it. So I guess it makes sense. Now moving on to how did Amaterasu got the cave? We go to Amane. Now Amane is a weird case. It's not really weird because it's more like not him personally, but the title that he holds. During Chronophantasma, Rachel calls Amane Uzume. Now, in the myth, Uzume, or technically Amino Uzume, she was a goddess that basically danced in front of the... Make a long story short, she was a goddess that danced in front of the Amino Iwato in such a ridiculous and fascinating way that gods all over began to laugh at it. It was so hilarious to the gods, they just continued to laugh. And it even made Amaterasu curious enough to come out the cave and come outside. So I guess it kind of makes sense because Amane has basically been hyped up as this really powerful godlike being of sorts. And that he is the god, he loves to dance. And it fits with Uzume's ability, just to dance. And yeah, basically it led Amaterasu to become curious enough to come out the cave. So I guess it ties back. So it'd be funnier if Amane was the one to basically make her come out the cave. And funny enough, if you think about Amane's name, now as I said before, Uzume's full name is Ame no Uzume. Amane's name, Amane Nishiki, if you can turn it around as Amane Uzume. So it kind of rolls back to that, which no one's ever brought that up before, but it does make me think that it could have been intentional. Amane, that word Ama could be seen as as heavenly. So yeah, I like that. I don't know if anyone ever brought that before, but that's a nice thing to think about. When you think of Ragnar's sword, the very first thing that people will say is called the Blood Scythe. And while I'm not, I won't tend to disagree with you because it's basically the move in Chronophantasma basically made people think, oh, it's called the Blood Scythe. It becomes a scythe, whatever. But it's not actually called the Blood Scythe. It's actually called the Aramasa. The sword is actually called the Aramasa. That's the canon name. It was actually used in the Central Fiction Material Official Setting Collection. I may have got the name setting wrong. And it was also used as notes for cross-tag battle. So that is the canonical name for the weapon. The Aramasa is actually short for the weapon called the Worochi no Aramasa. It's basically one of the 3 Totsuka no Tsurugi swords used by Susanoo. The Worochi no Aramasa is very special because it was the one that he used to slay the Yamato no Orochi, the 8-headed snake. It also has to go by a different name called the Amino Habakiri, or basically the Heavenly Snake Slayer, something of those sorts. There's more translation of the word, but I feel like it's called the Heavenly Snake Slayer. And funny enough, Ragnar is a user of the sword. He is a user of the Aramasa, which he used to do in Susanoo. While in the myth, Susanoo was the one who used the sword to cut down the Yamato no Orochi. It will make sense. Trust me, when I get to that part eventually about the Black Beast and Yamato no Orochi, it will make sense. Trust me, it will make sense later, and it'll be kind of ironic. So yeah, I will get to that part, but that's like the next part. So I will get to that. Trust me. The goddess Kukuri Hime is actually brought up during the events of BlazBlue Central Fiction. During their first meeting, Noel called S to Kukuri Hime absentmindedly. The Kukuri Hime is actually the goddess of meditation and negotiation. This basically fits with S's title in the Japanese version as the Conciliator, which is basically a person that acts as a mediator between 2 disputing groups. Her theme song, if you're familiar with, called Conciliation, also comes from that. S's basically whole goal is to try to stop everybody, just to calm everyone down and negotiate with them about the whole them becoming one with the Seether and junk like that during the events of Central Fiction. So it does make sense to why she's called the Conciliator. Now they call her the Arbiter in the English version, which kind of ruins the whole point of her being the Kukuri Hime. It kind of defeats that purpose. She still has her theme song Conciliation, but her title is the Conciliator in the Japanese version. She's the person who's supposed to negotiate, basically negotiate. She's supposed to be the mediator to calm everyone down, just to calm everyone down during the events. That's why she comes forth and tell everyone, oh, okay, you gotta have choice, yada yada this, yada yada that. But they gave her the more generic name of Arbiter, and it kind of kills the whole significance of the moment. There's some things in BlazBlue that kind of kill the significance of what the song was, the thing was supposed to be, but it still kept Kokuri Hime, which bothers me so much. They took out Conciliator, which is like her whole deal, but they took out they kept in Kokuri Hime. But whatever, I'm not gonna get to that. That's a discussion for another time. The point is, that's S is Kokuri Hime. That's pretty much her whole deal right there. And finally, we reached the very last part of the, well, we reached the very last name, the Japanese myth of this part, until I move on to the next one on our video. And this is going to be talking about the Murakumo unit. Now, Murakumo, the name basically meaning gathering clouds in Japanese, it comes from the legendary sword in one of the 3 imperial regalia of Japan, known as the Ame no Murakumo no Tsurugi, or just the Ame no Murakumo for short. And it was basically changed to the more popular name known as the Kusanagi no Tsurugi. Now, as it ties in BlazBlue, we're going to use Noelle as an example, because Noelle is a Murakumo unit, and she's special amongst them as she is Kusanagi, the God Slayer, all that junk. So basically, how she was the Murakumo, she was basically technically turned into Kusanagi. So that kind of like basically ties into that, because Murakumo is a known name, but Kusanagi is more popular with people. It's normal, it's known more. I guess it's how, to me personally, it's how the name hits. Kusanagi. That just sounds like a more edgier. It just sounds like an edgier name than freaking Murakumo. But yeah. So. And after spending a whole time trying to dodge it, now we finally reached the Black Beast. We already know about the Black Beast, giant snake thing. I just have to say thing because that's pretty much what it is. But it's not the Black Beast we're going to be talking about now. We're going to be talking about the Yamata no Orochi. The Yamata no Orochi, or basically meaning 8-branch great snake in Japanese, is a giant 8-headed snake that was eventually slayed by Susanoo. As we all know, that Hakumen was the one who finished off the Black Beast, and it kind of, you know, relates to that, obviously. Hakumen was the one who finished off the Black Beast. Hakumen is in the Susanoo unit. The Black Beast is the Yamata no Orochi. Yeah. But in a funny way, it also does a reverse, because when Ragnar was going against Terumi, you know, basically Ragnar was considered the Black Beast at the time. And technically, the Black Beast is the Yamata no Orochi. So Ragnar basically is the Yamata no Orochi at this time, while Terumi, obviously Susanoo, basically, Ragnar was the one who killed Terumi. So technically, it was like the Yamata no Orochi killed Susanoo instead of the other way around. So yeah, that's also another thing. Another thing is that, as I said before, I talked about the Kusanagi no Tsurugi before, the sword basically that was renamed from the Ame no Murakumo. And the Kusanagi actually was created from the tail of the Yamata no Orochi after Susanoo slayed it. After he slayed it, he was able to, you know, cut off his tail, and that became the Kusanagi no Tsurugi of today. So that's also something I wanted to say that was interesting. It's kind of weird that the whole sword came from his tail, but the Yamata no Orochi is kind of weird to talk about because it's just a giant monster snake that had 8 heads. Now, before we get off to that, I also have to mention something else that kind of ties in with the Yamata no Orochi, and that is Kushinada. Now, in BlazBlue, we already know about Kushinada. If you ever heard of Kushinada, you will think of the Kushinada's linchpin, basically, you know, the thing they're supposed to use to seal the boundary off. Well, hit into the cauldron to seal the boundary off. But the funny thing about it is, in the actual mythology, Kushinada, or otherwise known as Kushinada Hime, or technically, you know, Princess Kushinada, she was a daughter of 2 earth gods known as Ashinazuchi and Tenazuchi. Now, she was going to originally be sacrificed to the Yamata no Orochi. As said by Tenazuchi and Ashinazuchi, they originally had 8 daughters, but each and every time the Yamata no Orochi would devour them because the parents sacrificed their children in order to stop the beast's rampage. And then Susanoo came across them one day and said, "Hey, what's wrong?" And then told his story. And so Susanoo went off to go find Kushinada and, you know, save her, which basically got him about to, you know, fight off the Yamata no Orochi in the first place. So after Susanoo killed the Yamata no Orochi, he and Kushinada, like, he was so like baffled by Kushinada's beauty that he basically married. The 2 got married right off the spot right there, and it just made me think that was funny because if I had no idea how to allude that to BlazBlue because, like, you know, obviously, you know, some of these mythological terms don't tie with one another. I don't blame Mori because I don't do it myself. I only do it like very few. I actually just tie the mythology to like very few things. I personally don't. You know, it depends on what I'm trying to tie it to. I honestly don't do it. I just like the names, you know. I like mythology and folklore and junk like that, but I mostly use it for name's sake. I don't know why. It's just the names sound cool, and I feel like the stories will sound cool if I just found a way to tie them into it. But I'm getting distracted. The point is, That's Susanoo, and that's Kushinada from BlazBlue to the Myth. So, yeah, that's that's it. Finally, we reached Gigant Takemikazuchi. Now, I honestly don't have much to say about Takemikazuchi, really. There really isn't much to say about him, really. Now, we already know about Gigant Takemikazuchi. You know, the 10th Nox Victorious, big giant monster thing. I'm saying that a lot about a bunch of. I'm saying that like about a bunch of things. But yeah, it's a giant monster. You know, alien, black beast looking bastard. But in actual Japanese mythology, Takemikazuchi, or otherwise known as Takemikazuchi no Kami, is one of the Japanese gods of thunder. His name means the brave, also possessing deity, but with a few different kanji, his name could basically mean thunder god. As I said before, there's not much to say about Takemikazuchi because its mythology is kind of, I wouldn't say screwed up, but it's kind of like, it has different interpretations. Now, it's either a wrestling god, which I think it is, or just a regular god of thunder, or just both. And I'm not even going to go into great detail about it because it's kind of hard to get on. But the point is, all you have to know is that Takemikazuchi no Kami is one of the Japanese gods of thunder. That's pretty much all you need to know. That's literally it. Next, we finally reached to Mu 12's moves. Not Mu 12 herself, because we already talked about her being, you know, Kushinada, but her actual moveset. Because in the Japanese version, her moveset is actually ties back to Japanese mythology. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you the number notations. If you know about Mu 12, you should know about her moves. I'm terrible at saying number notations, and I'm terrible at saying just stuff like that on the fly. So what I'm going to do is just say her moveset, and just say what mythology they tie to. So her Pillar of Light move, her Exceed Excel, is in Japanese is actually called Tsuchi Ikazuchi. Tsuchi Ikazuchi means Earth Thunder, and is born from the right arm of Izanami. Now, before I get to that, I have to mention that there were after Izanami was burnt to death by Kagutsuchi, there were several gods that were born from. I'm just gonna get gross with it. There was a bunch of gods that were born from her vomit, her feces, other crap about it. Like it's gross. But and her arms and legs and all that crap. But yeah, it's gross. But Tsuchi Ikazuchi was born from her right arm. Now we get to her Totsuka blade. The funny thing about it is, in Japanese, her move Totsuka blade is actually called Ame no Totsuka. Accurately, it's supposed to be called Totsuka no Tsurugi, or basically meaning Sword of Totsuka or Sword of 10 Links. The localization is actually more accurate to the mythology than Mu's actual move, because Ame no Totsuka is basically what, Heavenly Totsuka, or like Heavenly 10 Links. So it doesn't matter really, but in the English version, it's called Totsuka blade. In the Japanese version, Totsuka no Tsurugi, that's what's supposed to be, not Ame no Totsuka. Totsuka no Tsurugi is supposed to be basically being Sword Totsuka. So basically, the localization got it right. Now I reach Tokotachi Blade, one of her newer moves in Central Fiction. And the name comes from Kuni no Tokotachi, one of the two gods that rose from the chaotic Earth. When the Earth was basically, new, it's all chaotic now. Kuni no Tokotachi is one of the two gods that came from there. Her move Origins in the Japanese version is called Sunugui, and it's one of the Kami-yo Nanayo. And as I mentioned before in my previous video, the Kami no Yanayo were basically a generation of 7 powerful gods. Wisdom of the Divines in the Japanese version is called Amoikane, and Amoikane is a god of wisdom and intelligence. Its name technically means along the lines of thinking together or asserting one's thoughts. Basically, Amoikane has something to do with thinking and thoughts and stuff like that. And finally, we reached our final move, Blessed Mirror, otherwise known as Yata no Kagami. Yata no Kagami technically means 8-span mirror, and I mentioned before in my previous video that it was one of the Imperial Regalia of Japan. Just to get a little refresher course, there was 3 Imperial Regalia of Japan. I already mentioned the Yasakani no Magatama, which Izanami had. I'm stalling here. I'm sorry, my brain's falling. Okay, the Yasakani no Magatama, which Izanami has. There's the Yata no Kagami, and finally there's the Kusanagi no Tsurugi. So that's the 3 Imperial Regalia of Japan. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And now I'm about to reach to the worst part of this video, because it is a lot to get in, and they're gonna be about the hierarchical cities, and I gotta be ready for that. And now we finally reached the last part of this video, and the main reason why I split these videos into two. The 23 hierarchical cities are actually named after technically the very first 23 children of Izanami and Izanagi. So there are 23 to go through, and I don't know whether I should just blaze through them or just, you know, let it go. But other than that, I might as well go through it at lightning speed, because this is a lot to go through, and I will try my best to go through them as best way I can. So we're going to start with city number 0 of Izanagi. Now, the thing about Izanagi is that it's technically Ishana in-game, the 0th city, or it's otherwise, you know, it's otherwise Ishana, but in actuality, in the Chronophantasma material collection, the city is referred to as Izanagi. So we'll call it Izanagi, so, you know, because Ishana kind of ruined the whole theming of all this. And Izanagi, we already know, is, you know, one of the creator gods alongside Izanami of Japan. So, yeah, there's Izanagi. The first hierarchical city of Okoto is named after Okoto Shio no Kami, the first of Izanagi and Izanami's children. Now, all these children will follow a set pattern because they're all technically Izanami and Izanagi's children, but they're basically, you know, named after such, like, oh, the first god is the first child, the second city is the second god, the third city is the third god, you know, so on and so forth. So there's that. The second hierarchical city of Iwatsuchi is named after Iwatsuchi Biko no Kami. The third hierarchical city of Iwasu is named after Iwasu Hime no Kami. As I said before, each number city is correlated to the number of the child. So basically, I don't have to say third child, third city, fourth child, fourth city, so on and so forth. The fourth hierarchical city of Naobi is named after Kami no Naobi no Kami. Yeah, I definitely butchered that. The fifth hierarchical city of Ibukido is named after Ibukido Nushi. The sixth hierarchical city of Yabiko is named after Oyabiko no Kami. The seventh hierarchical city of Kazamotsu is named after Kazamotsu Waki no Oshio no Kami. The eighth hierarchical city of Wadatsumi is named after Wadatsumi no Kami. And the thing interesting about Wadatsumi is that it's a sea god. It's also called Ryujin or Ryujo. Either one of those lines. Ryujin's a dragon god. I got that confused. It's also called Ryujo. So there's it's also another thing you gotta learn. Another factoid right there. Ninth hierarchical city of Akiso Ko is named after Hyakusu Hiko no Kami. The 10th hierarchical city of Akiso Otsu is actually named after Hyakusu Hime no Kami. So basically, it's kind of weird to say, because Akisu Ko and there's Akisu Otsu, and so Akisu Ko is correlated to Hyakusu Hiko. Akisu Otsu is actually named after Hyakusu Hime. So basically, and the differentiation between Hiko and Hime is that, you know, Hiko's the boy, Hime is the girl. So if you were to you can count them twins if you want to. The 11th hierarchical city of Shinatsu is named after Shinatsu Hiko no Kami. It's basically another name for Fujin. As I said before, Fujin and Raijin are respectively both a wind god and a thunder god, because their names technically mean, because Fujin technically means wind god, Fujin. 12th hierarchical city of Kukunochi is actually named after Kukunochi no Kami. And I wish I could have gone into more depth with these gods, but understandably, there's not much to say about them. Really, there isn't much to say about them, because like, they're known, but there's so little info about them, and if I were to go through all of them, this video would take way too long. So I'm sorry I had to dumb down everything for you guys. It's just it's too long to go through. Like, I would have to go through like this would have been an hour if I went through in every depth of every god. And hey, we reached the 13th hierarchical city of Kagutsuchi, but I already talked about it before in the previous video about 9's Hino Kagutsuchi, so I really don't have to say it. But if I were to you know, to refresh the people's minds, Kagutsuchi was basically the god that burnt Izanami to death and, you know, killed her in the first place. And yeah, it's pretty much that. Like, and funny, it's the 13th city. 13 is always seen as a bad number, and I don't know if that counts in Japan, but 13 is seen as an unlucky number. And how was it funny that Izanami's third kid was the one that killed him? Well, killed her technically. Funny enough, they still had kids afterwards. They were still able to produce gods, you know, after Izanami just went dead. So yeah, they were still able to produce more gods. The 14th hierarchical city is Nozuchi. It's named after Nozuchi no Kami. The 15th hierarchical city of Torifune is named after Ameno Torifune no Kami. The 16th hierarchical city of Ogetsu is named after Ogetsu no Kami. The 17th hierarchical city of Yamatsumi is named after Oyamatsumi no Kami. There's a lot of no Kamis I gotta go through. The 18th hierarchical city of Kaneyama Yamabiko is named after Kaneyama Biko no Kami. And this is, guys, because this guy starts the trend of, you know, gross gods being born from Izanami's gross stuff. Because this was the first god that was born from Izanami's feces and vomit. I know. It's refreshing to know that, because, you know, Izanami was dying and freaking convulsing, and she crapped and vomited and peed everywhere. So yeah, yeah. Kaneyama Yamabiko was the first one to be born from Izanami's crap and puke. Yeah, it's gross. It's really gross. The 19th hierarchical city of Kaneyama Yamabime is named after Kaneyama Bimo no Kami, and also is another god born from Izanami's feces and vomit. The 20th hierarchical city of Hanayasu Yasubiko is named after Hanayasu Biko no Kami, a god born from Izanami's feces. I can't take this seriously, man. The 21st hierarchical city of Hanayasu Yasubimo is named after Hanayasu Bimo no Kami, a god born from Izanami's feces. The 22nd hierarchical city of Mizuha is named after Mitsuhame no Kami, a god born from Izanami's urine. And last but not least, the final hierarchical city is the 23rd hierarchical city of Wakamusubi, named after Wakamusubi no Kami, a god born from Izanami's urine. And with that, that pretty much marks every single mythological thing in BlazBlue thus far. At least every Japanese mythology thing. And if I missed one, I can't blame me, because there's a lot to go through. But other than that, I think that's it. That's every mythological thing, well, Japanese mythological thing in BlazBlue thus far. I may do Norse and I may do Norse another time. But other than that, that's all, guys. I will see you all next time. And I just gotta go wash the impurities out of my mouth from having to say Izanami's feces all the time.